everyone, welcome to the channel DevOps Tech Stack. I hope you all are doing great and fine. Talking about the DevOps Bootcamp series, in our last video from this playlist, we discussed what is operating system and why Linux is so popular in IT companies. So to kickstart our journey with DevOps, Linux is the foundation and very important to know. As we are not the Linux admin people, so we will not get into deep dive of the Linux. But the basics of several aspects in Linux is must to know. Like we will understand what are package managers, what are users and permissions in Linux, what are Linux file systems, networking, SSH, shell scripting, and few more. Now to practice all the concepts in real time, we need a Linux machine. So I have decided to create a virtual Linux server on AWS cloud so that we all can be on the same page. To all the people who are hearing the term AWS cloud for the first time, don't worry, it's just a cloud provider and we will get into detail of this in later videos. Advantage of creating virtual Linux server on AWS cloud is that whatever commands I will be sharing will work for all of us and we will not get into any trouble related to machine configuration. Before creating virtual machines on AWS cloud, we have to first understand what are virtual machines and how it works. So basically computer has hardware like CPU, RAM and storage, and top of that we have Windows or Linux operating system that decide how application will use hardware resources, and above that we have the application layer. This all we have discussed in our last video. If you haven't watched that video yet, please check that out. I will share the link in the description. Now let's say you want to install Linux operating system to learn Linux concepts. So for that, in normal scenario, you need a complete new system. But in modern era, we have a new technology called as virtualization, which enables that you don't need a new hardware. Instead of that, you can use the existing Windows operating system. You can install a new operating system using the technology called as hypervisor. Now we will discuss in detail of what is hypervisor. Hypervisor is basically a technology that allows to host multiple virtual machines on a physical computer on top of the operating system which you already have. One of the most popular hypervisor is Oracle VirtualBox from the Oracle. It is so popular because it's open source and free of cost and works on any operating system. What VirtualBox actually does, it takes the hardware resources from the host operating system. Hypervisor will actually create the virtual CPU, virtual RAM, and virtual storage for each of the virtual machines. It will give only those resources what exist on the physical machine. So in short, you will have one physical machine and on top of that, you will have multiple virtual machines by sharing the resources of the physical machine using the technology like hypervisor. Okay, for example, Oracle VirtualBox. These virtual machines are isolated from each other. Each virtual machine will consider themselves as a single machine, and that's good because anything happen on one VM will not impact the other VM or your physical machine. You can destroy that particular VM and create a new one. Using the technology like hypervisor, you can have more than one operating system in a single physical machine for your testing. This is actually the type 2 hypervisor what we discussed just now. What I am trying to make you understand is that you have one physical machine, just like what you have your personal laptop, which can be touched. And on top of that, using the technology like hypervisor, you are launching multiple virtual machines that are isolated from each other by sharing the resources of your personal system. Why it is called a virtual machine? Because these can't be touched, but it exists in the reality. Now let's talk about the type 1 hypervisor. Those are called as a bare metal hypervisor. Only the major difference here is like hypervisor is directly installed on top of the hardware instead of the operating system. Here you will not see any of the operating system layer. These are actually called as the bare metal hypervisors. They are mostly used by the big companies where they have one physical server and on top of that they will install the hypervisor technology. Few examples are VMware ESXi or Microsoft Hyper-V. This is actually used by the big cloud provider to create and run multiple virtual machines. So whenever we create a virtual machine on AWS cloud or GCP, you are creating a virtual machine on a physical server and other users also may create the virtual machine on the same physical server, but all those virtual machines as we discussed are completely isolated from each other. They don't share the network or storage or anything. Major benefit is that you can effectively use the hardware resources because they will be having the servers with a high configuration. Cloud providers let you decide how much resource you need for your virtual machines. So now as we have understood what is virtualization and how cloud providers are actually using this concept, in the next lecture we will create an account on the AWS cloud and create the virtual machines over there. And we will use that machine to learn the entire concepts related to Linux. I hope this video was pretty useful for you as we are going through the very basics till the advanced in this DevOps Bootcamp playlist. See you in my next video. Till then, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my YouTube channel DevOps Tech Stack, and you can connect with me on Insta too. Thank you.